Good morning. My name is Julie. I'm the Director of the Council on Aging. I'm here to introduce Nurse Robin Kelly. She's going to get us started here. Robin Kelly is a certified professional genealogist from Boston University. Robin has been a genealogist for the past 26 years. The owner of Cape Genealogy for the past 17 years, specializing in lineage society applications and proof of lineal descent, including missing and unknown heir research. Originally attending Northeastern University for computer engineering and working in the computer field for 10 years as a network administrator for Cape Cod Computers. Robin's passion for genealogy is the reason she left the computer field and changed her career path. Robin is the cemetery administrator for the town of College since 2004, and she oversees 16 cemeteries. She's a board member of the Friend of the South Harwich Meeting House Restoration and Preservation Committee, restoring the old meeting house back to 1836, which received the 41st Annual Preservation Award from the Massachusetts Historical Commission for the adaptive reuse and rehabilitation and restoration. She's a member of the Cape Cod Genealogical Society, New England Historic Genealogical Society, Association of Professional Genealogists, board member of the Massachusetts Cemetery Association, past president and board member of the New England Cemetery Association, and the Garden Public College.
Thank you for having us here, for coming today and addressing these issues. It makes my job very difficult when people show up the day of somebody's death and they have 10,000 decisions to make in one day. It's overwhelming for them and myself, and sometimes it's very difficult for them to make a decision at that point. So that's why we feel like we should be holding these seminars, so that way people can be well informed of all of the things that they need. Usually they find out when they go to another family member's funeral, and it's very upsetting to them. So, hopefully my PowerPoint will work. So, I'm just, if all of my slides are going to be up there, but I'll be reading them from here. We're faced with the task of making end-of-life decisions. It is easy to become overwhelmed. The Cemetery Department, along with the Council on Aging, is hoping to help you address the importance of making these decisions at difficult times. Oops, Jamie? There we go. All right. I can't tell you how many families recently have had a lot of younger deaths with people dealing with mental health issues, whether it's suicide or drug overdose, and a lot of those families are very underprepared. People who are usually aging usually make some of these decisions in advance, but when you have a sudden death, whether it be a car accident or a fatality quickly, these are the questions that, people call me and I'm like, have you even called a funeral home yet? Because that's the number one phone call you need to make. You have to decide on which funeral home that you're going to choose to receive your loved one who's probably at the hospital at this point. Do you have a cemetery lot, or will you need to purchase a lot? Is your loved one going to have a traditional casket burial, or are you going to have them cremated? These are decisions that you probably want to talk out with your family members in advance. Don't want to be having these conversations after. Do you want to have services at a church, a funeral home, or graveside? Many people now, especially during COVID, they had almost all of our services for graveside and have full masses outside. It is very overwhelming to everyone involved. All the different, especially if you have many siblings that you all have to make decisions with. I can't tell you how many times I've had almost physical altercations at the cemetery between siblings on that's not what she wanted or that's not what he wanted. So try to make these decisions in advance. So what can you do in advance? What does your loved one want? So many people don't even like, a lot of people say, I don't want to talk about this, I'll be dead, it won't matter to me. It doesn't matter the ones you're leaving behind, and people shouldn't be that selfish that they're not gonna make that decision. Do you want to have a traditional casket burial or a cremation? That's the first step. You want to find that out. Are you going to be buried in a regular family lot in a traditional cemetery grave space? Do you want to be cremated? Do you want to be scattered? There's rules to being scattered, so you want to find out what those rules are. You want to do a burial at sea. Actually, somebody's going to address that later. Here is your obituary going to be put in. Do you want an obituary? Some people don't even want an obituary anymore. A lot of funeral homes give you that option and just put it on their webpage. But some people want it in the Boston Globe, or they want it in whichever newspaper that they have where they originally came from. Okay? And who should be contacted upon your death? So is there some old friends that you talk to occasionally your kids might not know about? And they might be devastated to find out you died and they missed your funeral. That happens a lot. I get phone calls from people that say, I found out that my friend died 3 months ago, and can you just tell me where their grave is so I can come and pay my respects? Sometimes it's nice to reach out to people, you know, that the person who has passed would have loved to have been there. Okay? So these are important forms or documents. And where are they located? People have important documents and they never tell anyone where they are. So, do you have a cemetery deed? If so, where, in what town is this? So a lot of people call me and they're like, oh, my grandfather's lot is in Evergreen, but it's Evergreen in Eastham. It's not Evergreen in Howard. So even though you say Cape Cod, you really kind of want to be more specific. Which cemetery specifically is it in which town? If it's a family lot, do you have an heirs of record form on file so that when you call, you say, my grandfather's buried there, but I want to go in that lot. Sometimes, if that's not on file, they're not going to allow it. I'm going to do that with you guys in a minute. Interment forms, monument markouts, preplanning guide, and 5 wishes. Do you need to purchase a lot? What type of lot will you need? Do you have a traditional casket burial or cremation? So in the town of Howard, we have cremation lots. They're 2 feet by 4 feet. They allow a flat flush marker and they hold 2 cremains. It's $500. You guys don't have to write down feverishly because they have all those notes on there. Okay, if a couple both wanted to be cremated, it's $500. But what if one of the spouses says, I don't want to be cremated, I want to be a traditional burial, and the other spouse wants to be a cremation, okay? They can buy 1 traditional burial space, they can fit a casket in, and then a cremation. So that's $800. If they both want traditional burial, it's $1,600 in the town of Howard. So it all depends on what your needs are for your cemetery lot. Do we need to purchase a lot, or can we go in our parents' lots? This is a question I get a lot. So we have a lot of cemetery space here in the town of Howard. Older lots, there's 2 people in a 10-grade lot, or 2 people in an 8-grade lot. We want people to use those lots. So we want you to fill out this heirs of record form. On the heirs of record form, you would list both your parents, when they were born, when they died, and if it was listed in their will. I've only seen once where a cemetery lot was listed in a will, so normally it's never listed, okay? And then it just goes into all these other questions. You would fill out on this form all of the children. Say they had 3 children. You put down the first child, then their spouse, and then if they have any children. And you go then skip some lines, and you put the next child, their spouse, in the other children. And on and on. In my case, I'm one of 6 children. We're all married. We all have at least 3 children. So I would say C attached, because there's no way it's going to fit on that. So is there space in my family lot? Jamie?
You got it.
Okay. So this is a traditional burial lot that's in our town right now. This is somebody's lot I did for them. I just took out their names. So they have 3 kids, and their parents and grandparents are all in the lot. So they were all in the front row, and the back row was completely open. So the kids are now fighting over, can we fit there, you know, this, 3 of us, how are we gonna all fit in there? So in each traditional burial space in the town of Howard, you can have up to 4 cremations. 1 full body burial and 1 cremation or 4 cremations. So I then sent them off this form. This is how many cremations you can get into that lot, 20 cremations, which is more than enough for the 3 kids, their spouses, and some of their children. So we want you to use your lots. This is very important information, and all different cemeteries have different rules. Some cemeteries say you only can have 3 cremations in a full body burial lot, and some cemeteries say you can have 5. In the town of Howard, you can have up to 4 cremations. So you want to find out if your town or your cemetery that you own a lot in, you want to find out what the rules are for that specific cemetery and what you can have in for lot usage. Okay? So which cemetery? So say you want to buy a cemetery lot from me. We have 16 cemeteries in the town of Howard, over 100 acres. We are the only other town except for Barnstable who has that much cemetery space. So these are all of our active cemeteries and our inactive cemeteries. These are on our website. So the ones that we currently are selling cemetery lots in are Evergreen in East Howard, Island Pond in Howard Center, Mount Pleasant, Kelly Cemetery, Pine Grove in West Howard, and then the North Howard Cemetery. So I'm just going to show you each one of them. So that's Evergreen in East Howard. This year we are building the Veterans Memorial Circle in the new section in Evergreen, which is going to be right here with that circle. So it's going to have the American flag in the middle. It's going to be flanked by all branches of the military, which is now 6 because we have to add Space Force. And it will have benches around there, and eventually all of our Veterans Day services will be held at the cemetery. We're hoping to have it in this coming up November. All of the contractors have been awarded their contracts. We're just waiting for them to do their installs. This is the Island Pond Cemetery, which is also the Marceline Arboretum. A lot of people know about it because we just received Arboretum status. A lot of people walking there as well. We have a limited amount of full body burial spaces in this cemetery. We have a lot of cremation sections. So if people ask me if they wanted to buy in here, we usually drive around and show them the areas of interest, and then they come back and they let me know if they're interested in any of those. Mount Pleasant in Howardsport, we just cleared a whole new section behind Tip O'Neill's graves. His sons came to me and said, could we clear this whole section because we want to buy lots. We found out our lot line went back further than we thought. So we just got a whole bunch of new lots back there that we're developing currently, but we already have about 1,000 lots still available in Mount Pleasant. The most of lots available are in Evergreen, though, because that is a newly expanded cemetery. Kelly Cemetery in North Howard has space as well that is available right now, but we have recently, in the last 2 years, finally got all of our deed approvals. We did a taking in 2008, but everything has now been filed with Barnstable County, and we will be doing an expansion project there in the future. Overlooks a beautiful cranberry bog in North Howard. We have the South Howard Cemetery. These grave sites are available. And the one unique thing about the South Howard Meeting House is you actually can have graveside services right inside the chapel and then go out to the church. So this is kind of underutilized at this point, but I think now that COVID's over, more and more people who are getting buried in that cemetery are going to utilize that. We have the Pine Grove Cemetery. We just did a gravestone restoration project down there, and I didn't have any updated pictures for it. This is a beautiful historic cemetery. Caleb Chase is buried in the cemetery, as well as a lot of Revolutionary and Civil War veterans. So it is very visited, and we have a lot of historic cores there. And this is, I believe, my final slide. This is the North Howard Cemetery. There is some lots that are available there as well. At the beginning of the segment, Julie talked about my genealogy research and my credentials. I am going to be holding a future seminar with Julie here, in, hopefully in the multi-purpose room, on tracing your lineage through gravestones. All the seminars that we do are always free. So if you have availability, as soon as we get the dates, Julie will be putting it into the Council on Aging newsletter, and we'll let you look forward to seeing some of you there. Okay. So does anyone have any questions for me? Or at the end of the seminar, I'll be sitting over there. If you want to come over and personally speak to me or ask me any questions of anything that you've seen, I'll be more than happy to help you. Yes?
This cemetery on 28, I think it's South Howard, has tides in the title.
What do you mean? I'm sorry.
The name of the cemetery has tides in it.
Oh, no. It's the South Howard Cemetery. That's just one of the,
So that's the South Howard?
Yeah, that's the South Howard Cemetery. Yeah. Yes.
All of these many cemeteries, you give us a piece of paper with the names and addresses?
Yeah, I have them all over there.
Okay, because I didn't know there was a lot of cemeteries.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, and everything is on our town website as well. The website's done really well, so it has the locations and the addresses as well on the website. Also, I didn't say that the Marceline Arboretum, if you go to that, if you go to marcelinearboretum.org or islandpondcemetery.org, we have an interactive mobile app. So if you're in the cemetery, you type in the word George Weeks, it'll walk you to his gravesite and tell you a little bit more about George Weeks. We are going out to bid to do the same thing with Evergreen in East Howard, but eventually all of the cemeteries will have a mobile app where you can locate your loved ones if you're trying to find them. And one of the nice features about the app is we allow family members to put up stories or photographs of their loved ones. Of course, we have to vet it, so we'll make sure that it's correct. We don't want somebody saying that father was the president of the United States when he wasn't the president of the United States. But people who come to visit in the summertime, it frees up a lot of time for me because then I can just send them to the mobile app. They can type in the name. If they're in the cemetery, it's going to walk them right to the grave. So for me, it's a nice tool that we developed for the town. Okay? So Julie Wittes, who is our new Council on Aging Director, here is going to be our next speaker. She obtained her Master's in Social Work and Master's in Public Health from Boston University, and since then she has dedicated her career to working with the vulnerable population. She moved to Cape Cod in 2019. She has worked at the Howard Council on Aging, first as a program specialist, then as the social service coordinator, and now, as of this summer, she is our new Director of Council on Aging. Let's please welcome Julie.
Yes, I am Julie Wittes, and I am the new Director of the Council on Aging. First, let's give Robin a little round of applause for putting this together. Very hard to bring all the wonderful people together this morning to educate us all on end-of-life planning. And planning cemeteries are her passion, and when someone is passionate about something, you can really see it in their work, and I think we'll see that today. So I just wanted to take a little time today to tell you about some of the programs and services that the Council on Aging has to offer you. First of all, the mission of the Harwich Council on Aging is to support and advocate for older adults, their families, and their caregivers. The best way to learn about the services and the resources that the COA has to offer is through our newsletter, which comes out every other month. You can sign up to get it either through the mail or by email. If you don't get it right now and you'd like to sign up for it, just stop into our office after today's event and see Kate at the reception desk, and she can help you. It just takes a minute. We just really need your address or your email address to know where to send it to. For today, I will give you a broad overview of just some of the COA services that might be relevant for you, and then I'll get a little more specific about some of the programs that we're offering right now. So basically, we have an umbrella of services that are designed to help people age in their homes, that is relevant for what we're talking about today as we're talking about end-of-life planning. Obviously, we're here to talk about pre-planning your arrangements, but we've got some topics that we've brought in to help you think about aging in place as you approach the end of your life. And then I'm also going to talk about the umbrella of services that we have that are more geared towards people who are still active and wanting to get out and do things because, well, you're a captive audience and I want you to know what we have to offer. So first we have our outreach office. A social worker is available for home visits and consultations with you, your family members, your caregivers, and what we do is we provide information on resources and services in the community that are designed to help improve quality of life, especially as you get to the point where you might be needing that extra support in the home. So for example, if you're looking for extra help with housework or laundry, we can help point you to the agencies where you can find that home care service. If you're looking for more healthcare related needs like medication management, again, we connect you to the right service for that. And next, the COA is very fortunate to also have a full-time town nurse, Sue Giselle. She's going to be speaking today, so you'll also get a chance to meet her. She does offer twice weekly wellness and blood pressure clinics. Wednesday mornings are by appointment, but you can also walk in to see her on Monday afternoons at 4 o'clock. Sue is really a treasure that the town is very lucky to have, so if you haven't met her personally, I recommend that you stop by to see her after we finish the talking portion today and get a chance to just say hi to her or come to one of her clinics because she really has a lot to offer everybody. Sue can also meet with you in your home in conjunction with the social worker for a more thorough assessment and to ensure a comprehensive follow-up plan and make sure you're really getting access to all of the services that you would need to help age in place in home. She also meets with folks at home on her own when they would benefit from follow-up from a nurse, but they might not meet the criteria for a home health care agency. We do have some other health-related services such as a weekly foot care clinic, a mobile dental clinic, a durable medical equipment loan closet, but the one that I'll highlight today is our Shine counseling appointments because that's especially important going into the fall season when Medicare open enrollment begins. That's the chance to change your supplemental plan like your Medigap plan or your Medicare Advantage plan or your Medicare Part D plan, your drug plan. If you don't look at your plans every year and compare the cost of coverage for different plans, you really could be missing out on some substantial savings. So if you don't meet with a Shine counselor at least every couple of years, if not every year, we recommend that you do that. The appointments go very quickly, so if you want to stop into our office and get your name on the waiting list today, we can help you with that. The COA does also offer transportation services because as folks are aging, they of course might decide to stop driving. So we have our Cranberry Coach, which takes people to shopping and errands and post office and things like that. But we also have volunteers to take folks to medical appointments. All right, so some programs we have that might be of interest to you. Every year in the spring, we participate in the Elder Law Education Project, which brings a lawyer to us. It matches us with an attorney who can come here and talk about any variety of topics that we would like to hear about. This past spring, we did bring someone in to talk about end-of-life documents like power of attorney, advanced healthcare directives, things like that. It was very popular, very well attended, and we'll probably repeat it again this coming spring, so you can look out for that in our newsletter around May. We also, if that sounds of interest to you, we do regularly offer free half-hour consultations with a lawyer once or twice a month. So if you have specific questions that you would like answered before May comes back around, you can talk to us about scheduling an appointment with one of our attorneys that offers those consultations. Coming up this fall and winter, we have a ton of fitness classes for every level of fitness. So I challenge you to find something that you're not interested in. We've got everything from Tai Chi and gentle chair yoga to something called total body tone-up with core strengthening. So we really got everything, something for everybody. We also have a couple of classes on Medicare cost savings, again, just in time for open enrollment. One that is relevant to what we're going to be talking about today on the benefits and myths of hospice care. That's on Thursday, September 29th at 10 a.m. And finally, if you enjoy your lunch today and you wish you could have more, then please come back and join us either for dine-in service or to pick up a meal for our grab and go. We serve lunch every weekday at 11:30. Our chef, Linda, prepares everything herself, fresh every day in the kitchen. So we hope that you would come and join us. Lunch has remained only $3, which is an amazing deal in this economy, and I think we can all agree. After lunch today, you're going to have a chance to browse the tables around the room and ask us some more specific questions that might not get answered. So we hope that you give us a chance to do that. I don't think I grabbed a table because I wanted to give everyone a chance, all of our vendors, a chance to have space. So I just have some documents over here. Sue is going to talk about what we have to offer, which are our advanced planning documents. So those are the 5 wishes form, the most form, which are the, it's basically the do not resuscitate order, healthcare proxy forms, and durable power of attorney. So Sue Giselle is going to talk about what those are, how you use them, why you need them, and then we have copies here for you to take with you. So I'll be standing in this general area for you to go over those with you and give you copies at the end. Okay? So that is the Council on Aging, and what some of the stuff we have to offer you is we hope that you would come in and take a class with us and come back and see some more of our events and see what we have to offer. And when it gets to the time when you need some more support and help from us, see our social worker and our town nurse. So next we've got Kevin Considine, and I'm going to give you a little description of who he is. Give me a second. All right, Deputy Chief Considine began his career with the Harwich Police Department as a special police officer in 1996, becoming a full-time officer in 1999. He was promoted to sergeant in 2007, promoted to lieutenant in 2014, and Kevin was promoted to deputy police chief in 2019. Kevin was a former school resource officer, crime prevention specialist, and DARE instructor. Kevin is active in community engagement and involvement, Toys for Tots, Law Enforcement Torch Run, Special Olympics Massachusetts, and the Harwich Police Citizens Academy, to name a few. Kevin has his Bachelor's of Science degree in Criminal Justice from Western New England College and his Master's degree in Criminal Justice from the University of Massachusetts Lowell. Kevin is married to his wife Nicole, and they have 2 children, Abigail and Michael, who are both in high school. And Chris is actually going to join Deputy Chief Considine. Chris is a patrolman with the Harwich Police Department and the department's Veteran Affairs Officer. Chris's duties as the department's Veteran Affairs Officer is assisting veterans in need and giving advice regarding the Veterans Affairs system. Chris is an 8-year veteran of the United States Marine Corps and is a native Cape Codder. Let's give them a warm welcome.
Thank you, and thanks for having us. We truly appreciate it. It's great to be back. I've been back in a few years, and it's so good to be back. Our topic is, from a police standpoint, for unattended deaths or somebody that dies at home, is clearly not an easy one, and I don't think any of these conversations are truly easy. But I commend everybody for being here, because for us to be able to come out and speak to members of the community so they understand what everybody's job is, and especially with ours, it only helps. It only helps us, and it helps our officers at a time when a family is going through some tremendous pain. And from all of the issues we're talking about here, sometimes ours is not the easiest one. So thank you for letting us have a few minutes here to talk. So the police get involved with somebody dying at home in a few ways. If somebody's under hospice care, we don't get called. There are sometimes, if there's some miscommunication or the family just doesn't know what to do when they call 911, and we get there, the first question we ask is, are they under hospice care? And if they are, we don't need to be there under state law, and then we quietly leave. That happens sometimes, not often, and we try never to have that happen because it shouldn't happen. So that's one instance under death at home where we do not get involved. So where we do get involved is if somebody, two ways. If somebody calls 911 because somebody is having a medical episode or they think they're having a medical episode, two agencies will show up, the police and the fire department, because that 911 call has been placed and there might be a chance to either help somebody or transport somebody to the hospital. So all the times on that, the police officer will show up with the fire department. And typically the police officer will show up first because we're out driving around as opposed to the fire department that have to leave the station. So there are some instances where we'll show up and unfortunately the person has already passed away. And that obviously is not known immediately to the person helping, or they just want to get that person help. There's sometimes when that person can't be helped and we'll keep them at the home and they'll be pronounced by a paramedic from the fire department at the home. And then we'll carry on with our process and we'll go through that in a moment. So that's one instance. The other instance is if they're transported to the hospital, we don't get involved in that. So if they're at home and they passed away, we'll stay there. If they are transported, we do not get involved from there on out. It's the fire department and the hospital. And then those agencies take over. So the big part for us is they've died at home, and there's typically two scenarios, right? Either the loved one or the spouse is with them, and they've called, or they're found by a neighbor, or a son or a daughter, or a significant other loved one. So a paramedic pronounced somebody dead, and then the fire department will leave, and then that's when the police take over. By Mass General law, all deaths in the Commonwealth have to be investigated by the state police and the medical examiner. So our job, our officers and our supervisors come in and they'll sit down with the family and they'll start gathering some paperwork. Who the loved one was, some demographic information, date of birth, what were they suffering from, what were their medications. We have a whole predetermined list of questions that we need to ask. And this is why it's important for us to talk to groups such as you, because this is often a chaotic time where the ambulance is left, everybody's really gone through a traumatic event, and it is our job to try to make that as easy as possible in a difficult time. So we'll try to get all the information from you of the loved one, what happened, how did they get found by you, and some difficult questions. But our officers are great with sitting down with the family and really taking that time to try to make a bad experience as good as possible. There's two ways that either the state police will get involved or the local police will handle it. If it's an elderly person with some known medical conditions, which that's why we ask those questions. They've already had some pre-existing conditions. They've been at the doctor recently, and this wasn't totally a surprising event. And those questions are important because our officers have to call the state police detectives and the medical examiner, and they'll ask the same questions that we're asking of you. And they make the determination whether they come out to investigate the death or not. Clearly, as Robin mentioned in her talk, over the years, we've had a lot of overdose cases. We've had a lot of suicides. Those are clearly cases, especially of young people, where the state police will come out, investigate it, and take over the case. We'll stay there because we're the local people that know our residents, and we'll stay there and help. But those cases are investigated by the state police. But usually, elders, they will deny the case. They will not come out to investigate. So that leaves it to our officers and our supervisors to deal with this situation. We work very closely with our funeral homes in our town and neighboring towns. We'll work with family and ask, have you decided on a funeral home? Are there pre-arrangements made? That's why this is all important, not only for everybody else, but mostly for us. That if there are arrangements made with local funeral homes, we can place that call. Day or night, we can place that call. We can assist with that. When the police officers arrive after they've checked on the person, they've discussed issues with you, the police officers are obligated, especially if the state police do not come out, they are obligated still to investigate that, to make sure that nothing suspicious happened. So that is viewing the body, possibly turning over the body, looking in the back of the body, and taking pictures. So that is mandated under law, and we document that scene just in case. We hear wacky stuff happening all over the world, all over the country. We just need to make sure that with what happens is what happened. So oftentimes that's difficult to explain to the family of what our role is. I would say 9 out of 10 times when we go to a home where somebody has passed away, the family has no clue of what our role is. But most importantly, they don't know what to do. They don't know who, they called us for help, and that's why we're there. But they don't know, they haven't made any pre-arrangements, they haven't spoken to a funeral home, they haven't spoken to Robin, they made 0 arrangements. And I've had officers tied up for a house. Years ago, I remember we had a house for 8 hours because they had a funeral home come from Vermont down. And that is fine. We'll work with it. We'll stay there. We have to stay there. We cannot leave. So for us to be able to give some hints and suggestions of what to do is only going to make the process go smoother and help us. One important thing is, and I'm sure one of the speakers will talk about it, file of life for the fire department and police. If you do not have one on your refrigerator, you're at the COA, please take one and fill it out, because all the questions we ask are probably on here. And that way, when you're grieving and you're trying to call relatives or trying to call family members or neighbors to come over, we don't have to ask the questions if they're on here. So if you don't have one, please fill these out. Once the funeral home arrives, the funeral home talks to the family. We'll typically assist the funeral home in removing the loved one. And we absolutely hope and try that somebody is with the family, especially if somebody's alone. We've stayed there for hours waiting for family members to come. As neighbors, somebody we can call, we don't want to leave somebody alone. So try to think about that. If somebody around that you can call, our neighbors around that are nearby. These are all important things to think about. So thank you for your time. This is a great opportunity for us to talk to our community, and I appreciate it. And I'll turn it over to Chris.
process is very easy. The last thing a loved one wants to do is answer a million questions, so having as much information already written down as possible definitely makes the process a lot easier. And also, having those pre-arrangements has also made things very easy. I've gone to plenty of unintended deaths where the loved one didn't know where to turn, and I've been to ones where they said, yep, this is where they want to go, this is what's going to happen, and the process is very quick, and you can kind of start, begin the healing process by getting the police out of the house and getting your loved one to their final resting place. So I also came with some information, being the town's veteran service rep. I attended something in the town of Wellfleet over the summer, and something I didn't know about being a veteran of 8 years and being in the the veteran community was a lot of information on the National Cemetery. I don't know how many veterans we have in here, or spouses of veterans, or surviving spouses of veterans, but you could be eligible for interment at the National Cemetery in Bourne if you're in any of those 3 categories. Basically, that's a free plot at the National Cemetery. Obviously, you'll have to pay for services, but the VA can also help with that. I can touch a little bit about that. But it's a no-cost burial at the National Cemetery. All that stuff is coordinated through whatever funeral home that you go with. I know all the funeral homes in town have direct lines to the VA in Bourne, and they can help with that. Just a personal experience I had. This was a tough one, and it was outside of this job. I had a neighbor who was an Air Force veteran right after Korea, and his wife unexpectedly passed away in the home out of the blue. They had no idea that it was going to happen, and he wanted to bury his wife at the National Cemetery. The only issue was he lost his DD-214, and his records at the DOD were lost in a fire in the 70s, so he wasn't actually able to do that. That's where he wanted his wife to be, because that's where he wanted to be when his time came, and I did wherever I could. I made a ton of phone calls, and we weren't able to make it happen in a timely manner, so he actually ended up doing it locally in Dennis at the time. So if you are a veteran, or a spouse of a veteran, or a surviving spouse of a veteran, get that service member's DD-214, and it'll help the process, because again, that's the last thing you want to be dealing with when you're dealing with a death, is tracking down paperwork to get your loved one to the National Cemetery. And I do have some more info that I won't hit on today. It's on the back table. It's kind of some financial benefits that the VA can help with the cost of services and burials, and if it's with the service-connected disability. I know the town's VSO, Shawnee Carroll's in the back. She's going to hit on some more information, but I have some stuff local to the National Cemetery in Bourne, and just a brief pamphlet from the VA about some monetary allowances you may be entitled to. But is there any questions on the police aspect, or anything I could help out with on the veteran side? All right, I work the 4 to 12 shift. If there's any veterans in town that have any questions that want to ask them offline, you can call the police department, ask for Officer Rigo. You can get sent my voicemail if I'm working. I'll take the phone call. I'll do whatever I can to help you out. It doesn't even have to be regarding death. It could be regarding any sort of veterans benefits, or any questions you may have about some stuff that's going on in the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have Ron Eaton, who is a second-generation funeral director. He's originally from Harwich and has lived on the Cape his whole life. He is the director of advanced planning for Doan, Beal, and Ames.
Morning. So a little bit more background. I am second generation funeral director. Born and raised on Cape Cod and Harwich. So in regards to pre-planning first, I want to ask how many have their pre-arrangements already put together? How many have have talked to their family about it. So, I've been licensed 20 years, received an associate's degree from Fine Mortuary College in Norwood, and an associate's degree from Cape Cod Community College of Liberal Arts with concentration in psychology. So, growing up, I got the background of the funeral business, which, in regards to helping those who were in need. And my father and mother, who had passed away, they didn't put together pre-arrangements. You'd think that the funeral director is responsible to get the pre-arrangements. My dad was a lot older, I'm like one of total 7 with the family. And so when my dad had a massive heart attack, and he thought he was going to make it, he pulled through, went through rehabilitation, came back a couple months later, and I'm like, I need to ask him what he would want. So I sat him down purposely and said, what would you want? Just cremating, going into the National Cemetery. We moved over for 2 back. And my mom was ill also. Sorry. Didn't expect that. So I asked. So I knew she would chime in if she did not, what she didn't believe in. So she right away said, no, like, I don't believe in cremation. If you pass away first and then you buried. Also, we have a grave lots right around the corner from us in the cemetery. So the only thing my dad did was purchase 10 graves on the cemetery in 1979. That's the only thing he did. So I kept that in mind. Her health declined, she passed away also. She would not want to talk about what she wanted when she was really ill either. It's understandable, she was scared. So when she passed away, got the family together, trying to figure things out, what should we do? So we're like, all right, we'll keep with the traditional type of services. Have a wake, have a mass, have a burial, go back to the cemetery. So fast forward, Dad, talking to different siblings, say cremation, and started talking about having traditional burial, or just a burial, or then cremation, different times. So when his first stroke, he actually was pretty okay, but our siblings talked about it. We need to get something done. So when he was going back to the nursing facility, I figured I'll give him a day to rest. I'll talk to him the next day. Also, side note, he did not have a healthcare proxy, so I'm a big advocate on that. My mom did, so I was able to take care of things there. My dad did not. So the next day, an hour before I was supposed to go over there, over the nursing facility said he had another stroke, this time paralyzed. I said, okay, in comfort care. He was a healthcare proxy. He does not have a healthcare proxy. So they sent him to the hospital, put a feeding tube in because he didn't have a healthcare proxy. That was bad. So in regards to also, he did not have, I couldn't get any idea what exactly he wanted. So we talked, my sibling and I talked. Those siblings did not want to see him, the younger siblings did. So we compromised and had wait for the closed casket because my older siblings didn't want to see him. Service the funeral home and information afterwards. But those who did want to see him got to see him prior. But basically what I'm getting at is, even though I had a funeral director background, it was still a stress. So in terms of putting together the information, I'm just an advocate. Write everything down, talk to your family, find out information. I mean, that's why I'm proud to be able to be the director of advanced planning over at Cumberland, because I can give that information in my experience and how helpful if you can do that for your family. Have a conversation too. Have it with your family. In terms of pre-arrangement, so what happens is you sit down, do like a general information session. You can meet as many times as you need. We put together your information, so it depends on what you want. Cremation. Side note in regards to cremation, it can take about 10, 14 days from the time of death to town coming back to the crematory. That's because of the 48-hour waiting period in Massachusetts. We have to hold all loved ones. We can't obtain the death certificate from the doctor. you have information authorization signed by legal next of kin. The way that works is it goes spouse, no spouse, then it goes children, all children have legal rights, then it goes children, parents, siblings, so on. And what we try to do is those, if they can put together, oh, go ahead.
Is that because it's Massachusetts?
Right.
It's in New York. We got the actions right away.
In terms of, it depends on, right, the states we have to hold for 48 hours. And then there's also that process where the local medical examiner has to come in and coordinate with them to, where they come in, look over the death certificate from the doctor, view the loved one, sign order saying information can take place. Then we transport to the crematory, and then it's at their discretion how soon information takes place. In Massachusetts, funeral homes do not have association with cemeteries, crematories, flowers, monuments, so also what we did, because we're in with the Digging Memorial Network, we got together with our affiliates, open up our own crematory, so that way the loved one is in our care throughout the whole process. We do a chain of custody law. So what we do is when we sit down, go over the options, like again, do you want cremation, do you want burial? Also, cremation is many choices for services, whether you want cremation ahead of time or afterwards. Same with burial. Do you want to have service? Do you want to have just a graveside service? We have personal planning guides that's helpful for putting your wishes together. We write it down, it's all in here. It has the information to ask for the death certificate. For example, when the children come in and we ask them, what's your mother's maiden name? So this way, all the information is there. And then even a checklist of the type of services, the cemetery, people to contact. Again, this is also helpful so your family doesn't have to go through the stress of going through an address book, personal experience. It took me an hour to go through my mom's address book because it was not updated. Financial information is all right here too. A little checklist for your family as well. Also, benefit of pre-arrangement, not only because it's going to help your family relieve the stress and the burden at that time. I can't tell you the number of times we have met with families coming out of this, one of what's called NAP transfer at that time, where I see the differences, their face on the face. They're just basically, they're not, it's understandably not emotionally and mentally there because they just had a loss, so they believe it. And then those who were the parents who put everything together, it was a relief. They just had to focus on minor details. Also, with pre-arrangements, you can prepay for it. The money goes into a separate account where it gets held. And it's not just Massachusetts, it's federal regulation where funeral homes cannot have money directly to us. So we put it in a type of account. We use a type of life insurance for burial arrangements only. And that's where it gets held. We would guarantee that cost, and that way it stays the same. Funeral home fees. Third-party fees you can put on, which is like the cemetery grave opening fee, the death certificates, newspapers. We'll put that in that account as well. That will not be used. We'll assist with arrangement with cemeteries, the National Cemetery too, mentioned before. We can also, your account or your pre-arrangements can be transferred to any of our affiliates across the U.S., Canada, and Puerto Rico, so that's available to you. So, again, the benefit of pre-arrangement is to relieve the stress of your family, have peace of mind. So that way it is together, you have all the information. Take the information again, was needed for the death certificate. Put together all the information that you want, what your services, and what you would like. But even if you're not sure what you want, we still sit down and talk. Give you an idea of what you think you might want. It's available. We speak about regulations too, what's allowed in the state. if you pass away somewhere else, but you're coming back here, we then contact your affiliates to assist us with getting the loved one back here. So that is available. There's also something called travel away from home protection, just like travel protection, that can help with getting loved one back as well and take care of the costs of travel. So for a loved one to come back, if they pass away, say somewhere in the United States, usually like say Florida, California, it can be about $2,000, $3,000 just for transporting back here. Canada, average $8,000, Europe about $15,000 just to get back here. So, but we would help with. Well, like I said, there is a travel section for that too, if you need it.
Do you have your own crematory?
We have in our part of us, yes, but on Rhode Island. We can't have in Massachusetts, but as with our affiliates, that would love them in our kids with the whole process. Yes.
Just a plug for that away from home protection that Ron just mentioned. The cost for that plan is only $4.99, and it's good for the rest of your life. You get the insurance thing with it. You get a card. Should you pass while you're on vacation, should you pass if you're on a trip to see family in another state, all your family has to do is call that one phone number, and they will get you back here. So for $4.99, you're protected for the rest of your life. This crowd here at COA are pretty young looking, so I anticipate that many of you still travel to see your kids, your grandkids, trips, cruises. It's something you should ask Ron about. It's a really good, I have it for myself and my wife. It's a really good plan. It's beneficial to your family. Nobody wants to come up with $8,000 to get you home if you pass away in the Caribbean on a cruise while you're relaxing. Who comes up with that kind of money? So for $4.99 is a really good option.
Is that in Europe also?
Yes, and it can cost $15,000 to $18,000 to come back from Europe, Japan. We've had, unfortunately, I don't want to get into specific stories, but we've had people who passed away in another country, and it's a lot of stress that's added to your family in terms of they have to deal with their local authorities, so you need translation fees to pay for that. You need to deal with the counselor to repatriate the body. If you pass away on a cruise, for example, they don't have the ability to hold you on their ship. So they have to leave you at the next port of call, and then your family has to figure out how to get you from Antigua, for example. It's really awful. So really, it's something you should, even if you don't pre-plan at this time, it is something you can purchase in advance, especially for those that I mentioned that, because it really provides a service to your family who is going to have to deal with that grief and that sorrow to make it easy for them to get you home.
So something else I want to mention in terms of putting together your arrangements and even prepaying because of what's called Medicaid spend down. So if someone goes into a nursing facility and has to apply for Medicaid for long-term care, they have to get rid of any assets, whether monetarily or like a physical asset. And quite often we get a call from someone saying their mother's going into the nursing facility and they were told they need to open up accounts and spend the money. That way it's put aside too, because if, in terms of if there's no money at that time, it's going to be difficult for paying for the arrangement. That way if you have something together, we put it again in an account that gets held. It starts off with revocable, so there's flexibility, but we have to make it irrevocable, so it's not an asset. So that's something else to think, like if you have everything together, if it, God forbid, it does come time where you have no choice, or your family has no choice, where you have to be in long-term care, and you have to, I think the cap is $2,000 you have in your account when you're applying for Medicaid. So, yes?
Cousins, very good pharmacies, and he's better. And I pre-bought,
Yeah.
be very warm. I'm not filling out this national eligibility
Yes.
review. And they're asking about whether or not he has a they want all the assets.
Right,
So can they take that?
if it is not, if it's revocable, yes.
It's irrevocable.
It's irrevocable? No.
Oh, okay.
Irrevocable, it can't be touched, it can't be canceled, so it's safe to use. You can also open up a barrel savings account capped at $1,500 with the bank. That's for any extra items like wine, flowers, that nature as well. So,
So they,
Yeah, book that.
that they would take that.
Yeah, they'll take it, they'll ask if you have life insurance, and then what usually will happen is, they have to get rid of life insurance as well. And that's something that, actually, speaking of life insurance, that's something that comes up too, is someone will say they have life insurance when they're putting together plans. That life insurance is really for your family, to continue on, living. That's why putting together a pre-payment plan, which we also have, payments available too. That, again, it's put aside, you don't have to worry about, but most important is to put together your wishes, talk to your family.
Thank you, Ron. Yeah, his father has a beautiful cemetery spot. Ron's a big, huge lot. Okay, so our next speaker was supposed to be Tom Blue. He was unable to attend today. He is the monument dealer that's in Howard Center. He literally does probably 80% of all the monuments in this town. But we do have other monument dealers, and we have a list of those monument dealers that are, have insurance through the town on our town website. But they're Henry T. Crosby and Son, and it's Marilassus Press and Lettering. They're in the Howard Cultural Center. We have Cape Cod Memorials. They are in Orleans, Mackey Monuments, and we have a stone graver named Raul Fratesas. So those are our other vendors. Our next speaker, though, is going to be Reverend Faith Lavender and Reverend Scott Elliott. They're interfaith ministers, and they're life celebrants. So they're going to come up and give you a little talk. I have seen them, and they do a lot of graveside services, and they are amazing.
You should take a minute to just get up and stretch. They're falling asleep.
Another aspect of service, religious or spiritual.
Hear you?
You can't hear me?
Just need to bring the microphone up.
Pick it up. All right, so I'm Reverend Scott Elliott, and this is my wife Faith. We're interfaith ministers, and we've had the privilege of serving Cape Cod now for over 25 years. And one of the most common questions we receive is, are we affiliated with any particular church or any particular religion? And the answer is no, not one. So we work independently, representing people from all walks of life, all religions, all cultures, and do our best to be certain that each service and every presentation truly represents the family and the individual who has passed. So in addition to doing funerals, memorials, graveside services, we also do many, many weddings and baby blessings. So when it comes to the end of life representation, Faith and I truly consider it an honor to be invited to collaborate with the family. We collaborate with a group or an individual to pay tribute to their loved one. The way we see it is every life is sacred, and their passing is also sacred. So, and as has been expressed here today, people are often in shock or grief. I'm not sure how to proceed, so there's also this aspect of the passing that you have to look at. So we truly feel privileged to guide people through the process in a gentle, compassionate, and supportive way. So what we do as interfaith ministers is work closely with each person or each family to represent their individual beliefs and their way of expressing what's sacred to them, what's sacred in their life, and incorporate it into the funeral, memorial, or celebration of life, or graveside service. And then we emphasize that it's truly a collaboration between ourselves and the family. soul deserves a lot better than that, and every family as well. So we make it our goal to get as much information from the family, from friends, and then we'll design a ceremony that's the right fit. And when I say right fit, I guess I should expand on it. So one that accurately represents that loved one, celebrates their life, who they were when they brought into your lives, all positive ways they affected the world, the lives around them. And we take into account that planning such a services, like has been said here, is something most people don't even think about. So our job is usually at the very last minute, we get a phone call, 3 days into the service or 4 days into service. We'll jump right on it, get in touch with the person who's planning within the family, and then we'll send them, either meet them in person or send a questionnaire out to them to collect as much information. And it may be that a niece or a nephew would like to speak at a memorial or a celebration of life, but they can't bring themselves together. We'll speak on their behalf and say, Johnny had this to say about his grandfather, his grandmother, or his auntie. And it really brings that personal touch. It allows other family members to convey without actually having to get up in front of the crowd to speak. And so, the other thing I wanted to mention is these days there are a lot of options when you're planning. And a lot of options actually will represent a person's beliefs, and styles, and their culture and their religion. So, funeral homes, for instance, long ago they were kind of dark, dry places, and now they're places full of light and life and wonderful people who, compassionate people, everyone I've met in this business. You can have a celebration of life and it'll be catered right there. Beautiful place. And there's no getting it wrong. If you decided you wanted to have a celebration, a funeral home, you wanted a celebration of life somewhere else, you can do it in your home. Or you could do it on the beach or an overlook that might have been a favorite place of that loved one. And then I just wanted to mention briefly that there are different types of ceremonies, and some of those have been mentioned today, just to kind of get them clearly in your mind. So there's the funeral, where the body is present, can include religion and spirituality. Spirituality is usually a more formal ceremony in nature. Then there's the memorial or celebration of life, where maybe an urn is available or present, pictures of the loved one may be present, and that can also be something that's catered, where you truly have the opportunity after the service to talk with one another, share stories and memories, and it's just a wonderful way of honoring and remembering that person. And then there's the interment or the graveside service, which was spoken of earlier by Ron and others. Typically, this is just what you're doing is interning the final resting place of their ashes of their body. Sometimes, when we want to forgo it, and even now, you'll do both. So you have a celebration of life or a memorial. People get up and speak about that person, and the graveside, we'll do a graveside interment all in one. And so I'd like to invite my wife to Faith to speak on the next half of our presentation. Well, you know what, when I hand it to you, it's probably wrong for a regular hour. Or I should get some.
There, now it's on. So, funerals and memorials are one of the few, I think I can go over this here.
Now you're on.
That's good. So funerals and memorials are one of the few rituals in our society that we still engage in, right? One of the few. And they're so important. There are some people that just aren't doing funerals and memorials, and that is not just sad, but it's essential for our mental and emotional health. that we acknowledge the reality and the finality of their death, if we are to move forward with our grief and still feel a connection with them in our hearts. And typically, we embrace this reality in two phases. First, we acknowledge the death in our minds, and we're told that somebody has died, and intellectually at least, it takes a couple of days before that really sinks in. And then over the course of the following days and weeks, with the help and the love and the support of people around us, we begin to acknowledge the reality of that death in our hearts. And secondly, to help to heal our grief, it's necessary to shift our relationship with the person who has died from one of physical presence to now one of memory or spiritual connection. And having a funeral or a memorial ceremony encourages us to begin that shift, or it provides just a natural time and setting for us to have time to reflect upon the person and all the time that we have shared with them and what they mean to us. In most of our funerals and memorials, we include a beautiful eulogy. And this is a highlight of the major events of the person that has died. And it highlights the characteristics and all the things that were important, that were loved about this person. And to honor that person, we talk about them and how they expressed love, how they embodied love and helped to make this world a better place. And this is helpful to mourners, for it tends to prompt more intimate and individualized memories. And then later after the service, mourners will have time to informally share together over a luncheon or coffee. And this is a way that they can share more personal memories. And this is really important and meaningful because throughout the grief journey, it's so important to continue to share stories and memories of the person that has died. And this helps us to not only heal our own grief, but to have a more healthy relationship with death in our own lives. And so in addition to sharing memories at a funeral, this helps to affirm the special place that this person held in our hearts, helping us too to understand our own pain. And often to memories that other people will share will be things that we have never heard before. And this teaches us that this person was so much more than we realized, so multifaceted. And oftentimes having these glimpses into who this person was will change our perception of who they were forever in really beautiful and profound ways. When someone dies, we naturally ask ourselves the meaning of life and death. Why did this person die? Why now? Why this way? And most important, what happens after death? To heal in grief and to become comfortable with death in our own lives, it's really important to explore these types of questions. And on a more fundamental level, a funeral helps to reinforce the central fact that our existence is someday going to come to an end. As the old saying goes, none of us gets out of here alive. And like living, dying is a natural and unavoidable process. And so the funeral helps us to search for meaning in life and in death. End-of-life services are a way in which we as individuals and as a community convey our beliefs and our values of life and death. The very fact that we hold a funeral or memorial demonstrates that both life and death are meaningful and sacred. And to fully embrace life, we have to fully embrace death, for they truly are two sides of the same coin. And finally, the end-of-life celebration lets us physically demonstrate our support to both family and friends. It's a public statement of, I'm here for you. Sadly, ours is a society that is not very demonstrative in nature. But at funerals, we're allowed to embrace, we're allowed to touch, we're allowed to cry, we're allowed to comfort and to be comforted. And this in and of itself can be so healing. This physical show of support is one of the most meaningful aspects of the funeral and memorial process, and it truly ignites the process of healing. God bless him. Every life deserves to be honored. Every life originates from love and is an expression of love throughout that person's life. A funeral and a memorial is a way of celebrating not just the life of the person, but all the lives it has touched along the way. It is a statement that says, you have left a mark on the world. And it's a statement that says, you have left a mark on the lives of all that are here. At a funeral, keep in mind that these are the last words that will ever be spoken of this person in a gathered setting. And we believe that every life is deserving of such an honoring and remembrance. Those of us that work in this business, I'll speak for all of you, I'll tell them for this too, are truly caring and special individuals, deeply compassionate, and our purpose is to guide the living and to honor the dead. And we feel so privileged to do this work and to serve others in this very special way. And so I'll leave you with a quote from the wonderful mystic poet Rumi, who says, goodbyes are only for those who love with their eyes, because for those who love with their heart and soul, there is no such thing as separation.
Our next speaker was going to be Amy White from White's Flowers. Unfortunately, she has 2 huge funerals that she is attending today to bring flowers to. So she did bring a flower arrangement, which is over on the table over there. And that flower arrangement is the ones that she usually does for urn vaults, so like an urn. We go in the center of that where the candle is right now. And she left her book with all of the different flowers that they do for funerals, displays. She also does a lot of our annual flowers for people on their birthday. She'll bring the flowers down and then she'll come back a week or so later and remove them. So she offers that services. Her cards are on the table if you're interested in seeing them. And if you want to call her, she does amazing flowers for every occasion, but she does a lot for me for funerals. And then our next speaker is Shani Farrell. She is the Assistant Director, Department of Veteran Services. She's a retired United States Air Force Master Sergeant. And her office is located here in the Community Center, right next to my office, which is very convenient.
Well, I won't take you too long. I'll be very quick. So thank you, Chris, for talking about the National Cemetery. I have flyers in the back. All veterans and their spouses have a spot there. You can fill out a pre-need eligibility for the Board National Cemetery. It doesn't reserve you a spot there, but it just lets them know you're coming. And in about 6 weeks, they'll send you a nice little folder. So whoever's handling your estate, it's all right there. Now the plot at the National Cemetery is free, but you do have to get there. So I get a lot of calls from people, my father just died, he's a veteran, you take care of it. Unfortunately, I wish I could. I can help an indigent veteran who passes away without any resources or family members. Whoever's handling the estate would have to provide some financial documentation like a last bank statement. If there's no money there and there's no property, then the state of Massachusetts can help with that funeral cost up to $4,000. If I have a lot of families who don't use funeral homes, because funeral homes are great, you do all the work for me, it's awesome, thank you. You get the grave markers, the burial flags, the honor guard. But some families I've seen a lot of cremations this year. And I've seen a lot of shaky companies out there doing burials at sea. So that's why I'm promoting this business here. It's a very large headboat out of Sisseton Harbor. They have been super busy with burials at sea this year. They can take out 49 people in about a 2-hour trip. And they're licensed and they do everything according to the federal regulations because they have to be out at 3 miles offshore. So I have these flyers in the back if you are interested. Okay? And any questions of me? I'm in the back of the top. Thank you.
Oh, what's the name?
There's Swan Song. Swan Song.
All right, next up we have town nurse, Sue Giselle. She has worked for the Harvard Council on Aging for 17 years. And she is, I just can't say enough good things about her. We are so lucky to have her. So please give her a nice warm welcome.
Thank you, Julie, our new council on aging director. Very excited. So I'm Sue, I'm the Harvard town nurse. I know a lot of your faces, which is nice. I wanted to touch base on a couple things that I deal with on a routine basis. I know that Kevin Considine was able to touch on the file of life. Can you hear me okay back there? Yeah. Okay. So, is this better?
Yes.
Okay. I know Kevin Considine touched base on the file of life form. I just want to bring this back up for a moment. When you're looking at this form, the most important thing for them to look at is contact information. Sometimes it's on there, sometimes it's updated, but if they have a contact person, they can get the rest of this information from that contact person. But anything that's missing on here is something that the emergency room is going to have to figure out. But if they have a contact person, everything else can be resolved. Also, as the Council of Aging, we keep a database of people here in this town. For those of you who belong to the Council of Aging, which just means that you filled out a form and that you've given us some basic demographics, we do ask for contact information. Many people leave it blank. It's at the bottom of the page and it's in a separate box. If you don't know if we have contact information for you, it only takes a minute. Take the form back home with you and send it to us or drop it back by. We'll update it in our computer system. I can't tell you how many times we get a call, at least a couple times a month. Do you know this person? Do you have a contact information for them? And it's very helpful for you if we do have that. So, moving on, we do have a copy of this book. It's called The 5 Wishes. Has anyone seen it? A few of you have. It's very important. It helps you stay in control of your future, and there's nothing more important than your having control. So, part of my exercise when I come out to meet with somebody is to talk about these basic things. The 5 Wishes book, a MULST form, who's seen these? And then the healthcare proxy form, who's seen these? Oh, everyone, good. All right, that is pretty basic, but you'd be surprised how often I go into a home and they have not done a healthcare proxy form. I keep them with me. We can call a couple neighbors over and get them filled out at the time. All that means is that in case you are not able to speak for yourself, you've legally written out who it is you want to speak for you. It's not a little decision, but it's certainly best to have you decide who's going to speak for you than let the emergency room or any lawyer decide who's going to speak for you. When you sign this form, All you need to do is fill it out in front of 2 people and have 2 people witness that you have filled it out, and you've decided without anybody pushing you who you would name as your healthcare proxy. We do them here at the Council of Aging as well. So this pink form here is called the MOLST. You've probably heard the term. It's Massachusetts Medical Orders Life-Sustaining Treatment. This is the legal form that the doctors are using here in Massachusetts. If you have an old form that says what your advanced wishes are for anything as far as CPR or to be resuscitated or any kind of medical care, it should be updated, and that form will always be this bright color pink. Your doctor's offices have it, and it is legal once you and the doctor have signed it. There cannot be copies that are legal of this. So once you have this form, you only have one unless you ask for the doctor to fill out 2 of them with you, where you both sign it. On this form, you're going to go through a list, and I'll leave it with you, but I'll just quickly touch base. It is, the first question would be resuscitate. Do you resuscitate or don't resuscitate? And you don't have to take notes on this because we're going to give you this form so you can look at it yourself. Ventilation, do you want to be ventilated? Do you want non-intensive, non-invasive ventilation? So say somebody arrives to your house, and they see you're having shortness of breath, and once you get into the ambulance, they have decided that you would be more comfortable to be ventilated for a short time. You have to make that decision with the doctor. Do you want that for a short time, or do you just don't want any kind of ventilation at all? So there's varying degrees, and this is an important conversation to have. And you can, under your insurance, call your doctor to make an appointment just to discuss this. And you'll need, 15 minutes to discuss this with your doctor. As you turn over on the back side of this, it continues to ask you other questions, like dialysis. Some people need dialysis as they get older. If you have had kidney disease, there's dialysis that can help sustain your life. So people have a very good quality of life. They want to keep going, and by going to dialysis a couple times a week, where these people at the dialysis center become your family, you are able to continue to live another very good quality number of years ahead. And for other cases, for short-term dialysis, if somebody has, for example, a cancer that's in their abdominal area, you might have fluid that builds up called ascites, and some temporary dialysis can just relieve all that pressure that could make you uncomfortable in your abdomen. That might be pushing up against your diaphragm so you can't breathe completely. So that's a comfort measure. But if you decide you don't want dialysis, that will be on this form. So these are important things to talk about with your doctor. Artificial nutrition is another one, whether you want it through IV or a G-tube. Some people, does everyone know what a G-tube is? Just a tube in your stomach that will give you nutrition. So that's a very small surgical procedure, and that will just give you nutritional intake while you're recovering from something. And then artificial hydration is pretty basic. A lot of people are open to having IVs. So that is the pink form, and in order to go through that pink form, I like to take this book out. It's an exercise. This isn't something you do at 9 o'clock at night, because you should be thinking about what you're doing as you're reading through it. We're going to give everybody, you don't have a copy of it now, but we will leave everybody with a copy of this. It's called the 5 Wishes. It's the first living will, also called advanced directives, which, again, this is the legal copy of what you would be doing. That talks about your personal, emotional, spiritual needs, as well as your medical wishes. Lets you choose the person you would want to make the healthcare decisions for you and how you want to be treated. The 5 Wishes began after this gentleman, Jim Towie, worked with Mother Teresa of Calcutta here in Washington, D.C. He lived with them for about a year at an AIDS home for people that were dying, and the 2 of them decided to come up with this 5 Wishes program. There's also a book that goes along with it, To Love and Be Loved. But Jim was the founder and the CEO of Aging with Dignity. And Mother Teresa chose him as her legal counsel over the last 12 years of her life. So I think he's probably a pretty important person if she chose him as well. And the two of them worked on this, so I think it's pretty amazing that we have this for free, kicking around with two very influential people that put a long time into looking at this. So it's worth a half an hour of your time to look through, and just going through the front pages here, it asks you some basic information. If you already have a healthcare agent, how to choose one. The second wish would be for what kind of medical treatment, which we just touched on here. If you are close to death, what kind of care do you want? The question would be, if my doctor and another healthcare professional both decided I'm likely to die within a short period of time, and life support treatment would only delay the moment of my death, choose the following. One would be to have life support treatment. One is not to have life support treatment, and if it's started, I want it stopped. The other is I want to have life support treatment if the doctor believes it can help. So there's varying degrees. You can decide what it is you want, but as much as you can say to your spouse or to your sibling or your friend, oh, just do whatever the doctor tells me to do, it doesn't work out that way, and some of you may have been in that position. It can be as simple as somebody has said, I absolutely want comfort measures if my time comes, and then they have a urinary tract infection, and you as the healthcare proxy, you're struggling. Do I give them antibiotics? Do I give them IVs to help them get through this? It's a very challenging place to be, and we don't want anyone that we love to be put in that position. Going through a booklet like this helps you spell it out. The third wish is about comfort. And it's really important, and they put time into this to talk about your comfort. So one of the questions would be here, my wish for how comfortable I want to be. It says, it gives you a lot of options. You can cross out what you don't want. You can put little added notes in here. And this is a book you give to your healthcare proxy. One would say, if I show signs of depression, nausea, shortness of breath, or hallucinations, I want my caregivers to do whatever I can to help me. Well, in that case, what I come up with is, that means they're giving you medications to sedate you. And then you feel bad because now you've sedated someone. That's not a bad thing. This person's choosing comfort care. This is why it's important to just really talk about these things and look at each question here and know what it is you want. The fourth wish is about treatment. How you wish for people to treat you. I wish to have people with me when possible. I want someone to be with me when it seems that my death may come at any time. I wish to have my hand held and be talked to when possible. Some of these things are clear cut, and other people will say, you know what, I think I'd rather be left alone. I don't want someone to see me during that time. And it's not about what we want, that we want to be with someone, it's about what they want. Another piece here is I wish to have members of my faith community told that I'm sick and asked to pray for me and visit with me. Well, I can tell you that that's an important one too. I have this wonderful woman that lived to be almost 102, who was maybe not quite atheist, but right on the cusp. And her best friend was a nun. Her other best friend was a devout Catholic. So it was pretty comical listening to the three of them really chat. And when I went to see her, and this was hours before she died, they had rosaries wrapped around her hand in her bed. Now, I know that if she had the power, she would have taken those rosaries and flung them. So I didn't say anything because it was bringing comfort to her two very best friends, but it was hysterical because I know she would never have wanted that. The last wish here is I wish for what I want my loved ones to know. As you know, we get better as we age. You're all examples of that. We can't fix our past, but we can use it to be our best selves moving forward. I have had the pleasure of getting to know people at their greatest times, sometimes at their loneliest times. Sometimes you've burnt bridges and you don't have a chance to really make amends to some of the things that have happened And I've met people who have figured it all out, but don't have the chance to go back and say, hey, you know what, I wish that I did it better. Now that I've got the foresight, this is what I would like you to know. You have the opportunity to do that here. And it's such a gift to have. And then a couple last things at the bottom of this is, if there is to be a memorial service for me, I wish for the service to include the following. So I feel like you touched on that, and I think that that's so important to do. So many people will say, I just don't want anything, don't make a fuss. When really it's an honor to do something. You've lived your whole life here, and there's something to show for it. When you do have a healthcare proxy, they're able to make very big decisions for you. And it's important you know, like, if you needed extra care, there's varying degrees of whether or not you go to a rehab, whether you go to a hospice house, whether you go home and get some hospice care. That's where speaking with an elder affairs attorney comes in, trying to get your affairs in order. Knowing that there's mass health plans, and I'm not going to go way off course, but there are a lot of things to consider. So at every juncture, as you turn and you're not sure where to go, that's when you want to go to somebody and do some serious brainstorming, because there's always options on the plate that you might not know that you have. So many people could actually go home and get wonderful care, but they didn't know that they could do that. Some people during COVID had no idea that if you challenge mass health, you might be able to go home and stay in your home with 24-hour care. So there's a lot of things to look at. So if I could leave you with one thing today, is just don't accept what you think you have to accept. If you're uncomfortable with something, if something's not settling right, or you come to a major change in your life, talk to people, go to professionals, go to people that are here and those that you've trusted before, and find out who you can talk to and how you can be sure that you've got enough information on whatever it is that's changed in your life. So thank you for having me today, Robin. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them right now. I won't be around at the end of the session.
You said there's only one copy, that pink one. Who gets that?
The question was, there's only one copy, the pink copy, and who would get that? The answer to that is you hold on to it. Thank you for asking that question. You hold on to this copy. If rescue goes to your house, quite often they can take a picture of it with their phone or document in their computer that they have seen the original copy and leave it at the house for you. Sometimes they're going to take it with you if they see that it's a do not resuscitate, that there's no treatment. Sometimes they'll just take it with you, and then at that point, you can fill out a new one before you leave the hospital.
Just want to add something to that. That those MOLS forms, sometimes we found them in the life files. So it'll be like the person's medication, all their current contacts, and then if on the MOLS there is a DNR, do not resuscitate, they put that in the life file, and we go from there. That's, if we see that on the refrigerator, that's the first thing we go to make sure that if there is a DNR, that we don't, we respect the wishes. So, thanks.
So the officer director, what is your name?
Officer Rigo.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for that. This is what they want to see. So that pink form is folded inside of this magnet that's going to be right up on the front or the side of your fridge. If it's here, they are not going to miss it.
Did you say the pink form has to be filled out with your doctor first?
This pink form is only legal when it's signed with you and your doctor and there's ink on the page.
Can you fill it out and have your doctor sign?
I would not do that. What I would do is take a copy from us, use it as an example as what you might like, and you and your doctor do a brand new one, nice and fresh. But you can take one of these as an example, and you can fill it out as an exercise at home. But be sure that you know this is not going to be legal until you and your doctor have signed it. We have copies of these, and you are certainly welcome to leave with one. You're welcome. Julie has a copy of all of this for you. So everyone will get a copy of all of this. But thank you, this is very important. If you have this, to have it put inside this file of life form, just to know that we can honor your wishes, that if we show up at your house and there's nobody to speak for you, that we know what your wishes are. I hope you all have a wonderful lunch, because I know that Linda's made a very special lunch for you today. And I'll let Julie come up, so I'm not sure who's next. Thank you very much.
So next we have Donna Todd Rivers, a retired attorney who is the Director of Business Development for Maplewood Senior Living, which is the largest provider of senior independent and assisted living options on the Cape. She is certified as a certified dementia practitioner and licensed as a senior life and health advisor, which gives her a unique understanding of the concerns and solutions for aging in place safely and securely.
Hello, everyone. So thank you so much for having me, and thank you to all my speakers who have spoken before me. We've learned so much today about pre-planning, right? So here we are talking about pre-planning for the future for our end of life. Well, what about between now and then, right? It's amazing to me how many people actually don't think about pre-planning for their housing options. I always ask why, and what the response is, and maybe some of you will identify, and I'm going to probably see it in the smiles on your faces. I hear, well, I'm just going to stay where I am until I can't. And then I ask very politely, well, then what? And I get this kind of this blank look on my face because I haven't really thought about it before, right? And then I ask why, and that's even a more interesting question because the answers usually are about family. We have a beautiful house on the beach, and my children come every summer. And now it's May, and my grandchildren are coming in July, and I just want one more summer in my home. And I totally understand that. But I think it's incredibly important to pre-plan. And I'm going to tell you about Sally and Susan. So Sally is a senior who is living in one of our communities here on the Cape by herself. She is a widow, and she was living in the family home. Her daughter, only daughter, Susan, is in California. And, you know, they have conversations, and Susan comes for a couple weeks during the summer to visit, checks in on the holidays, maybe comes in for a holiday or two, and Sally sort of keeps her at bay with, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. All of a sudden, Sally falls. Now she's at Cape Cod Hospital. She has a broken hip. She has to go to rehab. So now she's in a skilled nursing community, and now Susan's getting a call in California. Mom is in skilled nursing. We don't think she can go back home to the family home. Can you please come in? Come in. So now Susan flies in. She has 2.5 weeks time off from work so she can deal with this. She meets Sally. Sally's trying to recover from a broken hip. Sally's in pain. She's in skilled nursing. She's scared. We're talking about her not being able to go back home. Susan's thinking, 2 days, I have 2 weeks left. I have 1 week and 6 days left. And she is trying to make all these arrangements for her mother. They've never talked about this. They never really talked about it. So I get the call from Susan, who says, she can't go home. Skilled nursing is only short term. What are her options? Right? So Susan comes in, she tours all our buildings, I show her all the various different options. She makes a plan, Sally moves in. Great story. Sally's now happy in our community. She's doing well. What I want you to think about is what those two women went through. Sally moved into a community she never saw. Thank goodness she's happy with where she is. And poor Susan had to make all these decisions. And now Susan, who's back in California, is not flying back because now she has the family home to deal with. Do I sell it? Do I keep it? Thank God there's no siblings, because I can tell you, I have seen the whole issue of siblings and what happens to family homes and who wants mom and assisted living and who doesn't. So it's so important for you to think about pre-planning. I'm going to quickly tell you about some options. There's independent living, which basically is a residential model. It's a social complex, if you will, of apartments. You have really no needs other than to kind of want to be in a social environment where maybe you'll share some events with folks. Assisted living, which is really the concept I want to share with you today, is a residential model as well. And it's a social environment, right? So you're living with other seniors, but you have your own apartment, you're independent as you like, but occasionally you're gonna need assistance with some daily tasks, whether it be dressing, showering, maybe you need assistance being reminded to go to dinner, you have some memory concerns. But you want to be in a place that's safe, secure, fun, active, engaging, and you don't have to worry about a whole lot, right? Your laundry's being done, you have housekeeping skills, you have a dining community where you can go out and have all your meals, you have social activities, you meet with friends to play mahjong informally in some of the, event rooms and activity rooms. It's a very active way to live. It's a very active, healthy, happy way to live. The interesting thing about assisted living is the emphasis really is on comfort and hospitality while offering assistance as you need it. It allows you to age in place, which I think is something that people don't think about. But we want you to age where in place in your home. In your home now it's just an apartment. So as you need more assistance, we can bring more assistance to you. There is a concept called a continuous care community. Maplewood is the only continuous care community here on the Cape. What it allows you to do is come in where you are, who you are at this time. Whether it's independent, completely independent, independent with some assistance needs, or memory care perhaps, and then as you age in place, we bring more and more services to you. If you need a skilled nursing community, perhaps you have a knee replacement, or you have a broken hip, you can stay within the Maplewood family, go to our skilled nursing community, and then go back to your apartment. So it's called continuous care. We are very big throughout the United States. The Cape happens to have them, so that's really important. I want to tell you about Betty and Bob because no lunch is coming and I want to cut it short. I would love to talk to all of you individually about some of the options, but I want to tell you about Betty and Bob. So Betty and Bob are a married couple living in one of the communities locally, and Bob called about a year ago. Now Bob knew to pre-plan. So Bob calls and he says, I just love Bob. I'm completely independent. I'm in my 80s. I still play bocce. I'm out golfing. I'm in great health. I really don't need your communities. But my wife Betty needs assistance, and I'm her primary caregiver. I'm helping her shower in the morning. I make all the meals. I'm doing the bills now. And to be honest with you, I'm not really taking care of my home the way I used to. It's a lot. Betty's a lot, so now I can't really mow. I can't really do a lot. But I don't need to be in your community. So I said, fine. She said, but I'm curious. I said, fine, Bob, why don't you and Betty come on a tour? So Betty and Bob toured about a year ago. And at that time, Bob and I sat down and had a real heart-to-heart, and he said, Donna, I really want to do this myself. Can you help me? I said, absolutely. So we made arrangements for him. They had some health aides come in and help. We connected with elder services. They brought in some meals. We did everything we could to allow him to help Betty for them to continue to age in their apartment. Well, you all kind of know the rest of the story, right? All of a sudden, Bob's getting overwhelmed. And it's becoming, and Betty needs more and more needs, and it's affecting his life. And honestly, it was affecting their marriage because he was not the primary caregiver, and they were seeing each other differently now, right? And when you're in your golden years with your partner, your life partner, you kind of want to keep the romance going. You kind of want to be those people that you fell in love with years and years ago. You're just aging together. But it was changing the dynamics of the relationship. So Bob and Betty have moved in, and it's wonderful because they're in an apartment. Bob is completely independent. He still golfs, he still goes out, but Betty's needs are now being taken care of by staff. Now we're able to support Bob by supporting Betty. And now they're back to this wonderful, loving couple, just kind of aging in place together. That's what's important about pre-planning. Bob and Betty aren't Sally. They didn't have to call their siblings, right? And call the siblings, they didn't have to call the kids didn't have to come in and make all these decisions for them. Bob and Betty made a life choice together and are happy together. And they didn't have to have all that commotion and all that chaos around their life choice. I hooked them up with a realtor. They're currently in the process of selling the home. And Bob leaves every day, go back to the residence, He's packing up the boxes, he's going through mementos, he's making decisions about furniture, but he has time now because Betty's being taken care of. He is a safe place, a secure place, and now he's transitioning his life very comfortably. Pre-planning, what does that mean? That means exactly what Bob and Betty did, is don't be afraid to call a community you're interested in. You know, call someone like myself and say, I just want to look. That's all it is information. We just want you to be educated about what's available in your own community. So do the tour, whether it be 2 years from now, 2 months from now, or never. It doesn't matter. We're here just to show you what's available in your own community. So do the tours, get the information. I will be over the table in the corner. I have a bunch of great brochures for you. Something called Is It Time for Assisted Living? It's kind of a brochure to go through and ask questions. I have one that says assisted living versus condo, because I have a lot of people say, oh, I'm just gonna sell a house and go to a condo. And I always see those folks within a year or two because they haven't taken into consideration that a condo is just a home that, you know, you're paying money to have the roof fixed, but you're still not getting the assistance that you need. And I also have an event on September 28th at one of our communities where we're having a candid conversation with our residents. So you actually can come in and have lunch with us and actually speak to the residents who live there, which I think is more important than listening to me, quite frankly. So you can actually ask them what it's like to be in our community. So looking forward to meeting all of you. Please stop by the table and chat with me a little bit, and wishing you the very best in the future.
So we're running a little bit over, but the chowder is ready and Linda wants to serve. So what we're going to do is we're going to have Linda serve you guys your lunch. And then after you guys are all settled with your food, the additional speakers are going to come up and just finish while you're eating, if that was okay. All right? Thank you very much. I know you will all have your lunch now, but what we're going to do is we're going to resume with the speaker so that way you guys can eat and she can continue with her presentation. So our next speaker is Julie Brooks. She owns, her company is Peaceful Place Home Organizers, which is a little typo in the book. But she talks about how to declutter your house so that maybe your kids don't have to do it later. But anyway, we've had her before. She was wonderful before. This was quite a few years back, but we decided to have her back. So here, Julie Brooks.
Hi everyone, this is my first public speaking event since somewhere around March 2020. So it's so fun to be able to come back and do this. Thank you so much for having me. So, what does, has anybody here ever hired a professional organizer before? No? You raised your hand high, great. I'm going to be asking a lot of questions. So, how many of you right now where you're living are living in your forever home? Like you're going to be there until you need some of these other services? Raise your hands. Okay. Because most people do, you know, about in the last 20 years of their life, they're going to do about 2 downsizes. One big one from the family home where you raise the kids down to a smaller place, like often from off Cape, on Cape. And then maybe a last one to a more compact situation like assisted living, right? So I don't think, if you don't take any, you don't have to listen to anything I say today, but I want you to just remember this, that having people help you, hiring professionals to help you downsize is the best. I don't care if you use my company, I don't care who you use, but I want you to pay professionals to do it for you because it's going to be the best money you ever spend. All right? And I see the consequences of people that have called me last instead of first all the time. And they're just about half dead by the time they call, right? So what happens is people, when they're downsizing, the last time they moved was in, the 70s, and they had like their buddies come over and they gave them beer and pizza, and they had record albums and milk crates and like in their stereo system. And they're like, yeah, I'm gonna go, it's gonna be great. I'll get my friends. My kids are going to love to come and help me go through the stuff. And it's gonna be a great family bonding experience. My sister's gonna down the street said that she wants to help me go through all my stuff. And it's just going to be great. And it's going to be like I'm going to get my friends from pickleball to come. And it's going to be somewhere between a family reunion and a quilting bee. And it's going to be so much fun to go through all the stuff and all the memories. It's going to be great. That's not what happens. Everybody in the United States of America has too much stuff. They can't even handle their own stuff, and they don't want to help you handle yours. Okay, I'm sorry to give you the reality sandwich, but that's just the case, right? I don't see anybody disagreeing with me, because you might have experienced some of this already, right? So, about half of you in here, if you're a representative sample, about half of you in here don't have too much stuff because you've been purging all along. And when it's time for you to downsize, or if you leave this mortal coil, it's not going to be that big of a deal for whoever has to deal with your stuff. But half of you statistically have too much stuff, right? You don't have to raise your hand. If you have too much stuff, you can raise your hand and come out. Tell everybody you have too much stuff. But well, a lot of people do, right? And so I think people massively underestimate the amount of time it takes to declutter and downsize their house, right? So with hiring organizers, think about it like this. Suppose you have already died and your kids want to put your house on the market. Or suppose you want to move into assisted living and you have to sell your house, right? I want to put it to you this way. Let's set emotions aside, right? And selling your house, whether it's your kids who are doing it or you're doing it, it is a large business transaction. It is in the mid 5-6 figures to high 6 figures to 7 figures. Okay, it is. And that business transaction will not go through. That check is not going to clear unless every item in your house is off the property. So what's your plan for making that happen that doesn't involve volunteer work from your friends, okay? Most people are very overwhelmed by it, so the way they deal with it is by avoiding it and not doing it and leaving it for somebody else to deal with when they have gone. But you guys are great, so great at adulting that you have come to this session this morning to think about things that most people want to avoid thinking about, right? So you guys are really doing great that you even came here today. So the quick and dirty lowdown, my advice to anybody who needs to declutter and downsize is, first of all, always have a consultation, if you'd like to, with a professional organizer. They usually will just want to do a consultation. It's a very short money, maybe even free, and they can just sort of walk you through the process of starting to let go of those emotionally radioactive boxes in your basement that have been there for 20 years, okay? There's a reason why you gotta avoid it, because there's emotions in there, and that's fine, right? So, a misconception that some people have about professional organizers is that we're like, the Gestapo is gonna come in and force you to throw away all your stuff and get rid of stuff without your consent, and that is absolutely not what any of us do ever, ever. What we are there to do is to make sure that you do make decisions on the things that you have, right? We don't, my company, we don't care if you're keeping it or not, that's none of my business, but we wanna make sure that you make the decisions. Because what clutter is, and I'm not labeling any of your stuff with clutter, that's for you to label, not me. But what clutter is delayed decisions, right? And I'm not judging, I'm a certified professional organizer. I have clutter in my house, well, not that much, but I have some. I probably got some in my purse right now, right? So that's what it is delayed decisions. So organizers, we are there to help you to make sure that you make the decisions, and then make sure that those items go to their next destination, right? Which hopefully a lot of it would be leaving the property if you're not using it. So how does it leave the property? The easiest way is to have 2 buckets and only 2 buckets, okay? Besides keep, okay? The items that are leaving the property go into 1 of 2 buckets. There's a donate pile and there's a disposal pile. The more buckets that you do, the more you overcomplicate and overthink the process, the crazier it's going to make you, and the less likely it's going to get done. And an example of a bucket is, my friend down the street, I asked her if she was interested in my yard, and she said she'll come by and look at it, but she's in Europe now, so she can't come by for 6 weeks. So I'm going to put that aside here. And then my niece in Toledo, she's a college student. She could use a microwave. Okay, I'm gonna send the microwave to her. Never mind, microwaves are like $29 at Target. You know, all these different buckets. And when you ask people if they're interested in your stuff, a lot of people say yes, and 75% of them are lying. I'm sorry. I just see it. We've helped 500 clients. I've been in business 6 years. I have 20 employees. And I'm just telling you the truth. I'm saving you. I'm just telling you the truth right now. They are not interested in your stuff because everybody has too much stuff already. So, okay. And then the other thing is that the donation pile needs to go to one destination. We're not going to have like 10 different thrift stores that, look, most of them are only open in the summer on Tuesdays between 10 and 12, and then you have to remember to get it there, and then we're saving this for this church auction, but then you forgot, and then that has the, no, it's got to like leave the property. So that's what our job as organizers is we're there to make sure it gets done, so that we don't have all these limbo purgatory piles all over the place with no next action, destination, or anything. It's just crazy making. It's crazy. We don't want our clients, everybody already has enough. You guys already have to figure out, you know, what your fuel arrangements are, what you're getting cremated. Isn't that enough to think about? Like, that's important stuff. Like, who's gonna get your sweater from the 80s is not important. It's a very simple decision. Boom. You put it in a contractor bag, you take it, you put it in a clothing bag. That's it, period, yes, right? So, that is really, so, and I encourage people to think about, even if you're just wanting your house organized right now, I encourage, never mind downsizing, I encourage people to think of home organizing is not a luxury, it is a professional home service. So if you needed to retile your bathroom and replace the shower and the toilet, would you say, you know what? My friend Cecilia that I know from church, she loves tile, she's gonna come over and help me tile. And my son who lives in Columbus, Ohio, he's coming for a weekend. I'm pretty sure we can get the whole thing done in a weekend, right? So, and then it is not, in fact, you probably be more likely, you can watch YouTube videos, you probably would be more likely to redo your own bathroom by watching YouTube videos and get it done than you would be to if you have a lot of stuff, to downsize all your stuff all on your own. It's just not gonna happen, and I see the results of it all the time. And like I said, 9 times out of 10, people just don't deal with it, and then their kids are the ones that call my company because they're in California. What are they gonna do? I mean, I see people where they've inherited their mother's house in Harwich, for example. They live in Worcester, and the 2 daughters, it usually is, have been driving and by the way, the daughters work full time. And their husband's not feeling too well either. And they're working Monday through Friday. Then they're driving on the weekends to go through papers. So that, and meanwhile, the real estate market is softened up, and they couldn't sell the house. I see this all the time. So I am going to be available for questions, especially if you have any specific questions about how to downsize any particular category of item, like should it be sold, almost never, where can things be donated, well, who's a good junk hauler. I have all those resources that I'm happy to share with you guys. And I want to leave time for the next speaker, so you feel free to join me at the table over there if you'd like, if you have any questions at all. Okay? So think about it now, right? Get rid of your stuff. Okay. Bye.
Next we have Jennifer Pickett with the Brook Street Library.
They would take as remuneration what they do something with it, recycle it or whatever.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming. I want to reiterate what our previous speaker said. I'm really glad that you guys are all here. You deserve credit for coming and thinking about this and looking for information because so many people don't. So I am really happy to see all of you here, and just give yourself a little pat on the back. Seriously, this is a big deal that you showed up. I really think it is. I was having trouble hearing some people. might have had trouble hearing people. My table is the back. I brought the blue library banner. I will stay as long as necessary. I love talking about the library. I can do it for hours. So please come and see me in the back. I'm going to try to make this as short as possible, but I want to speak to as many of you as possible. So I'm a librarian, so I love books, and we have a lot of books at the library. You probably all know this. But we have books on just every possible thing that you could think of. That kind of covers the whole gamut here. So I just wanted to encourage you to come in. I brought a bunch of books with me. These are just some Final Conversations, Helping the Living and the Dying Talk to Each Other. The Party of Your Life. Get the funeral you want by planning it yourself. Good to Go, a guide to preparing for the end of life. So this ranges from legal stuff, estate planning, to grieving, to downsizing, to cleaning. I feel like I've done this thing a few times, and one of the books that was mentioned previous is there's a book on Swedish death cleaning, which is actually really great. And I would have brought that, but it's checked out right now. A lot of our popular ones are checked out at any particular time. But we have hundreds and hundreds of books on any topic that you can think of, so that's just the first thing. The other thing that you might not know is the library has no overdue fines anymore. We got rid of all of our fines. So please come in, take the book out. They renew automatically. You get your books for 6 weeks. Don't worry about the fines. We do want the books back at some point, but don't stress out about that they have to be back at any particular time. And we have so many books on most of these topics that you can take a good handful and it's okay, because there will be more books for somebody else, so don't worry about that. I also wanted to tell you that we take suggestions, so if you find a good book title that we don't have, we will often buy it. Please ask us. We will buy books, put them in the library, I'm sure somebody else will want them. We can also order books from anywhere in the country. So if you have some obscure title that might not be sold from our vendors, but somebody has it in Alaska, we can actually get that book for you. This is all free. This is for anybody who comes to the library with a library card. Beyond books, we have a lot of other resources. We have e-books. People read books on their computer, their Kindles, their iPads, all that stuff. Even if you don't really do a lot of tech stuff, you can come into the library and we can help you learn how to do it. It's free. People should be taking advantage of this. I am the reference librarian, so a lot of people don't know what that means. I'm the information person at the library. So general information about anything you want. You know, we're the unbiased kind of consumer reports people that you can ask questions of. We keep things confidential. Anything you ask me is confidential. I don't share that with anybody. And I know a lot of places to find things. So I know who to refer you to. I know where you can go to get more information. I don't know everything about everything, but usually I know where to get the information that you're looking for, and I can point you into a good direction. So I'm on the second floor of the library. You can take the elevator or you can walk up the stairs. I'm usually there. I work full time. I've been there 15 years. So just come up and see me and I will try to help you get the information you need. Beyond books and the physical things, we have internet access. Not all of you have internet access. We have computers up at the library. We can help you learn how to use the internet. It's really important that everybody's online these days, and a lot of information can only be obtained online. It's not all in the books anymore. So please come upstairs and we can help you find things online. Electronic resources. We have all sorts of specific resources that we buy, that the state gives us. One of the recent additions we have is a nice legal database. It has legal forms that are actually specific to Massachusetts. These are hard to find online. You will have a lot of websites that want to charge you money for this stuff. We can show you how to access some of that stuff for free. So ask us about the legal resources, the legal forms, the electronic resources. Medical info is another thing that I often help people find online. If you have any kind of medical issues, a lot of times you cannot find books about things anymore. They don't publish it. I can help you find non-biased, really accurate medical information online. We also have a library of things these days, which is kind of things that aren't books, videos, magazines, DVDs, which is anything from cake pans to like a karaoke machine and everything in between. Does anyone have any questions for me? Sure.
You still accept donations? Because I've got a lot of books I want to donate.
We get those questions a lot. Everyone in town seems to have a lot of books in their house, and there aren't a lot of people who are looking to take books these days. So the Friends of our Library do take donations, but they do have to be in pretty good condition and recent books because they're reselling them. So you can bring things in when they are during the hours that they're accepting donations, which is generally in the middle of the day. You'd have to call to find out what their hours are. Please don't show up with like tons of them all at once unannounced. It's better to know that they're coming. They do recycle books at the transfer station as well, and we do recycle a lot of our books as well. Anybody else? Right.
Can you tell about that? Because I'm going to be teaching a genealogy class. Can you tell about the genealogy resources?
Sure. So we have a genealogy section in our library that has some Harvard-specific information and family histories in it. There's also access to things like Heritage Quest Online, which is one of the databases that has all the census records in it. So you can certainly come to our library for help looking up local information, local history, any kind of town information. I'm often referring people to Robin, or Robin's referring people to me. So any kind of information, we can get you started with your genealogy research as well. Anybody else? Thank you.
So our final speaker is Joanna Raymond. She's a hospice care consultant from Kindred Hospice, soon to be Gentiva. Okay, they are located in Sandwich off of 6A on Tupper Road. Kindred Hospice is a national company on Cape Cod, and they are excited about being able to give resources to Cape and Plymouth County. There are a high level of care in homes, skilled nursing facilities, assisted living communities, and sometimes in hospitals if needed. They have a full-time team which consists of medical directors, nurses, home health aides, chaplains for spiritual guidance and non-religious, bereavement, and pre-bereavement up to 13 months after. So, Joanna Raymond.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Joanna Raymond, and like she said, I'm a hospice care consultant for Kindred Hospice. However, I'm also an occupational therapy assistant, so I know best of what it's like to be dealing with a person who should be on hospice. However, they're just not quite ready yet. And as I'm learning in life, there is a big stigma about hospice, that it's something that you go to in the time of dying. However, it's something that we're trying to educate would be more beneficial to someone, and a benefit that you paid into before that time comes. So if a doctor has said your prognosis is 6 months or less, that would be the time that you would want to plan to be on hospice. We are a team to provide care to you and compassion, not so much about your disease anymore, but what you want your life to end as. So respecting your wishes, like we've talked about the 5 wishes, also making sure that your MOLST is in place, but we're a whole team that provides care for you and what your expectations are and how you want to live your life out. We have volunteers that will spend time with you. We have a medical director who will guide your care. We do work with your primary care physician as well. But as a personal experience, knowing that my dad had gone through, we put him on hospice too late. We ended up, I believe we put him on hospice, and 3 days later he passed away when he could have been on hospice a lot sooner. He had kidney issues, CHF, he had some heart issues, And this is a man that it probably would have saved our family a lot of grief and turmoil and doctor's appointments. Instead, we could have been spending quality time with him and letting him choose how he wanted to spend his time instead of going to doctor's appointments every other day. So it's a great benefit to have, and I think the stigma is because you come on hospice, we're gonna end your life. That's not what it is. What it is it's a support system for you so that we can give you the dignity and the support of what you want to do on your last 6 months, 3 months, and supporting your family too. We do provide bereavement, and that can start in the beginning, and it will last 13 months after post-death, which is great because we all need to grieve and we need to process, and sometimes you don't know who to turn to. We will be there for you. And we're also humans too, so we understand. We're daughters, husbands, we've all been through it. We've all been through the grieving process. We have a chaplain who just recently we lost a patient and he went out and did their services. And it's a non-denominational, so it's whatever your spiritual guidance is. I know that this field is definitely a genuine one and a very humanitarian one, and I just want to just tell the world that, hey, hospice isn't what you think it is. It's a way to love you, care for you, give you the compassion, the dignity, the respect. We also do work with the veterans, so once when someone comes on, we do ask that question because we do pittings. We also work with the VA hospitals and the veterans. So we kind of guide that care and let them know, hey, just want to let you know your veteran's on services with us. And we do a lot of coordination with them, so if there's more care needed, we can reach out to them and they can help under the veteran benefits as well, because that's a fear that a lot of veterans have. They think they're going to lose their benefits. There's actually more benefits that you can get, and we can educate you about those. I know there's so much more that I could tell you, and I could be up here longer than 10 minutes, but my table's out back, but I just want to change people's mindset that hospice is not a place that we rush your passing, we end your life. We educate, we guide, we give you care, and it's your right. It's not a commitment. You can fire us anytime you want, but we work with you and we work with your families so that they have the memories to last a lifetime even after you pass. So if you have any other questions, I'll be over there for you. Yes.
About hospice.
Yes.
Both of my parents had hospice at the end of their lives. My mother is 78, so it was in the early stages with hospice. And my dad, more recently in 2012. It was, I mean, you can't really say that like the deaths were wonderful, that the atmosphere that hospice provided in the home, because they both died alone, was so supportive and so loving. Every time they were there, you felt safe. You just felt like they were really a good person that was either making the transition or probably had a better day and just for talking. They were there as friends, as advocates, as healthy drivers. It was, if anything, to be all mixed into one. Hospice is there. You can't say enough good about people that are associated with hospice. They're just fabulous, and I thank you on behalf of my parents.
I just wanted to say too, we go wherever the person wants to be. So if they're in a skilled nursing facility, we do work with the skilled nursing facilities. If they're in an assistant living or an ALF, we go there. Wherever that person's home is where we go. Sometimes they do have to go to a hospital just for symptomatic to get pain under control, but ultimately that's what we want to provide is comfort and pain-free. So that's where we step in. But we do become your friends. We become your family. That's what we do. So.
Yeah. And they can call anytime.
Yep, 24/7. We have on-call. Any hospice does. That's just what we're here for. And we work together too, because it's for the continuity of care of every person that's out there. You know, everybody has, and there's so many resources, and that's what we provide for everyone. So, yes. Hey, you paid into it, so use it here. All right, thank you.
Wait, yes, question.
I just want to affirm that I family that had a family member in Massachusetts, in Salem, Massachusetts. We also had another family on the Big Island of Hawaii, another family member, and hospice was there in each state, and you made such a difference in the transition, in the comfort that they received, the love they received, and the passing. You know, you say it's beautiful, but you made it more wonderful. Hospice is extraordinary. You are a gift.
Thank you. Well, how I see it personally is we make a big fuss about babies coming into the world. So why can't we give you the dignity and respect when you're leaving this world? Because it should be a beautiful thing as well, and a memory. Thank you.
Call out Linda so we can compliment her on.
Actually, I just looked into call up to Linda, but she left. So, Linda, oh, there she is, Linda. Come in.
We want to compliment you on wonderful.
Yes.
Great salad.
It's so proud from scratch, she won't give anyone the recipe, so. We keep asking her, but she won't give it to us.
Well,
That chowder recipe.
recipes, secret.
Thank you very much for your food and service. Thank you. I also want to thank Julie for teaming up with me to do this small seminar, which actually turned out quite large for today, and to bring awareness to your end-of-life decisions. So Julie and me will be working together to do a genealogy segment too. So thank you, Julie. Anything you want to say?
I just wanted to add that I did make up the packets that I promised with the 5 wishes forms and the healthcare proxy, et cetera, that Sue talked about. So those are over here. Everything is in one little